Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 21. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Parivrajakacha Stotara Sata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prince Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 21. Avyaktoksara iti uktas tam ahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Avyaktoksara iti uktas tam ahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Avyaktoksara iti uktas tam ahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Avyakta, unmanifested. Akshara, infallible. Iti, thus. Ukta, said, Tam, that which, who is known, Paramam, ultimate, Gatim, destination, Yam, that which, Prapya, gaining, Na, never, Nivartante, comes back, Tadhama, that abode, Paramam, supreme, Mama, mine. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. That supreme abode is called unmanifested and infallible, and it is the supreme destination. When one goes there, he never comes back. That is my supreme abode. Purport. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dham, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is full of palaces made of touchstone. There are also trees which are called desire trees that supply any type of eatable upon demand. And there are cows known as Surabhi cows which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortunes, Lakshmis, and he is called Govinda, the primal Lord and the cause of all causes. The Lord is accustomed to blow his flute, Venum Kwanantam. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like the lotus petals, and the color of his body like clouds. He is so attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his head. In the Gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in the Brahma Samhita, Vedic literature, states that nothing is superior to the abode of the Supreme Godhead, and that abode is a supreme destination. When one attains it, he never returns to this material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavan, 90 miles south of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Goloka Vrindavan located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended on this earth, he sported on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavan in the district of Mathura, India. Avyaktokshara iti uktas tamahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. So, among Krishna's instructions in the Bhagavad Gita, instructions on yoga, instruction on knowledge, jnana, how to connect with him, instruction on how transcendental knowledge is coming down in parampara or disciplic succession. Among these instructions, Krishna also points out in many places the super excellence of bhakti. He points out that there is another world, a spiritual world. He gives some description here. It is avyakta, not manifested. Akshara, it doesn't break. It is infallible. Krishna says, and once you go there, you never come back to this material world. Now, these verses, which come up regularly in Bhagavad Gita, are very pleasing to the devotees because it inspires us to concentrate and to understand that we have a goal. And that goal is to be free from the repeated births and deaths to which we are subjugated in the material world. Nobody wants to get old. Nobody wants to die. That's a fact. People may say, I'm not afraid of death. But actually, everyone is afraid of death. And you can see that by the unlimited arrangements people make to be safe in the material world. First, safety is found in family, in money, in land, in gaining some powerful position in the material world. But these endeavors are called fallible soldiers. Deha apatya kalatradishu atma saineshu asatsuapi. That the deha, the body, and everything connected with the body, apatya, family and wife, kalatra, adishu, beginning with family, with wife and children, relatives, atma saineshu, these are the soldiers which we think will protect us in this material world. But Bhagavatam says it is asatsu, api, despite being temporary. Asatsu means temporary. Despite being temporary, we are so much lacking in knowledge and in spiritual experience that we think that these things, family, body, relatives, country, money, property, we think these things will help us. And although we see, so Atma Sanyeshwa Satsuapi, it is Nidhanam. In the Bhagavatam it says that these so-called soldiers cannot help us. They actually bring us down because they keep us in material consciousness. So even though we see, we don't see. This is the material world. But in this verse, Krishna is explained to us there is another nature. In the verse before, we just did on Friday, Parastasmat tubhavanyo byakto byaktat sanatana. There is another nature, Parastasmat. It is beyond this material nature. Yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nasyatsu navinashyati. When this world is destroyed, that world is not destroyed. The problem in living with the material world is it is a temporary place. Therefore, this universe is called Jagat. It is always moving. It is not steady. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that the controller of everything is also situated within our heart. Nobody can argue that there is no controller. There is some control. That's why material nature is working so precisely. That's why the planets are moving precisely. That's why the seasons follow each other. Night and day follow each other. In fact, the arrangers of material nature work so precisely that astrologers can predict years in advance when the moon will become full, when the sun will become eclipsed. Like this indicates that there is a controller. In Sanskrit, the controller is called Ishvara. And that Ishvara, that controller, is also within our heart. That is explained by Krishna in the 18th chapter. Ishvara sarva bhutanam riddesh Arjuna tishtati. My dear Arjuna, understand that this controller is also sitting in your heart. So we may not accept Krishna as God, or Allah as God, or any God. But even an atheist who professes not to believe in God cannot claim there is no controller. So the first step in spiritual life is to understand that that controller is also within me. He is controlling my body. For example, I may have the use of my arms. I can put food in my mouth. But if my hand becomes paralyzed, I may desire to put food, but I will not be able to use the paralyzed hand. That is because the power given to my hand to move is controlled by some higher authority. And that ultimate higher authority is the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Krishna says, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. He says, the controller of everything is sitting within the heart. And Tam Eva Sharanam Gacha. Go to him, take his advice. It's not difficult. You simply have to give space to Krishna in the heart to advise you how to lead your life. And if you don't do that, it is not the criterion of Krishna. It is our fault. We can take advantage of the controller in our heart or not. That is our independent choice. Why have we been given an independent choice? Because without an independent choice, there cannot be any loving relationship. Loving relationship means that I do something for you, I do something for God because I want to do it. And the basis of this desire to relate is the basis of a relationship. This is the basis of love. It is the basis of life. So Krishna is supremely independent and is giving us a chance to utilize our independence to be connected with him. When we misuse the independence, or when we declare independence from God, misusing independence means to declare that I am independent of God, then we come into the material world. Just like in the kingdom, in the state, if a citizen refuses to accept the law of the land, then he's put in prison. Now, in prison, he may say, well, I don't believe in the government, but by force is subjected to the government control. So if we break the law, if we declare our independence from the government, we are put in prison. If we break God's law, if we declare our independence from God, then we come into the material world, which is nothing but a great prison. And it is called Durga. Now, in this verse, Krishna says, there is another kingdom, which is called Chintamani Dham. In the purport, Prabhupada explains the two. His purport is based upon the two verses of the Brahma Samhita. Chintamanis prakara sadmasu kalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhira vipalayantam lakshmi saharsa satta sambrahma sevyamanam govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. These Brahma Samhita prayers were composed of Lord Brahma and were actually lost to the Pandits in this world. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was touring South India, he came to a place on the border of Kerala and Tamil Nadu, and there is a very big temple called the Adi Keshava temple. And in that temple, he found a manuscript of the Brahma Samhita. So he had it copied and he brought it with him to Bengal. And it has been passed down in our Guru Parampara, in our Guru line to this day. And this Brahma Samhita explains Krishna as Govinda, Govindam Adi Purusham, that Govinda is the supreme person. He's the supreme father. I have a father, I had a grandfather, a great-grandfather, I had ancestors. If I go back, if you go back to your ancestors, ultimately you come to God. You come to, and who is that Ishvara? Who is that controller? Who is that father of everyone? Govindam Adi Purusham, the original person, Adi Purusham. Tamaham Bhajami, Brahma says, I worship him. And and then he worships Krishna where? Chintamani Dham. Chintamani Dham means in the spiritual world, where the Chintamani means that even the stones are translucent and conscious. For example, we worship the hill Govardhan in Vrindavan because Krishna spent many years of his youth playing on Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill produced for Krishna grass for the cows, caves, fruits from the trees. And one time, Krishna even lifted the Govardhan Hill with his left hand because Indra was sending, the demigod of the rain, demigod of thunder, was sending rain and thunderbolts to punish the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So to protect him, Krishna picked up this hill. And it is said, just by the touch of Krishna, this Govardhan Hill felt so much pleasure that she didn't notice the thunderbolts and the hailstorm and the rain being poured down upon her by Indra. So even though by material expression, it looks like it is just a hill made of stones and earth, actually it is conscious. In Vrindavan, if you have the eyes, if you have the devotion, you can see through the material limitations and actually feel the power of Govardhan Hill. And many devotees, they walk, I think it's 20 odd miles to walk around Govardhan Hill. It's called Govardhan Parikram. And you start at Radhakund, you walk all the way around and you come back at Radhakund. And even devotees, they build little houses along the way. They take some stones and they make a little house out of stone, hoping that when they leave their body, they will get their house next to the Govardhan Hill in the spiritual sky. So Chintamani means that in the spiritual sky, even the inanimate stones have consciousness and they serve Krishna. Prakara Sadmasu, Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu means conscious stones. Kalpavriksha, the trees of desire trees. Here in the material world, many trees don't give any fruit, and even those that give fruit give only one kind of fruit. You cannot get an apple from a pear tree or a mango from a plum tree. But in the spiritual world, the trees are full of this. They can supply you anything you want. You can go to the tree and it will give you whatever fruit you like. So the trees are highly conscious. Here in the material world, to be born as a tree is considered a lower birth. Many impersonalists, they are born as trees because they have no personal interaction with Krishna. So they are not given a chance to interact. But in the spiritual world, the trees are called Kalpavriksha, or desire trees. We have an example of a great devotee of Krishna. His name was Madhavendra Puri. So Madhavendra Puri was a direct manifestation of the spiritual desire trees in Goloka Vrindavan, and he appeared on this material world and he performed his bhajan and his devotional service in relationship with Krishna. He was so advanced at one time he was sitting in Vrindavan, and Madhavendra Puri was a sannyasi, a renunciate. He kept away from normal society. He did not mix with villages or people in the cities. He lived by himself, away from the city, in the forest. So he came to Vrindavan and he was sitting under the tree and he would chant, and he chanted most of the night. One night he was chanting, and then one boy came to him, one young boy, and he said, "My dear Sadhu, what is your practice? You're sitting here practicing devotional service, so I've brought you some milk." He says, "In my village nearby, nobody fasts, so here is some milk for you." So Madhavendra Puri took the milk, and then he fell asleep. And during his sleep, in a dream, he understood that this little boy was Krishna himself. So in the dream, Krishna told him, "My dear Madhavendra Puri, I am living nearby here. but because of the political disturbances, my temple has been destroyed, and the pujaris have put me in the forest, and I'm living underneath these different bushes, and I'm suffering the cold in winter and the heat in summer. So you please take me out and build me a temple. So then Madhavendra Puri called the villagers, and they cut into the jungle, and they found the deity of Gopal. So this deity of Gopal was then put at the top of Govardhan Hill, and later on he was moved to Gujarat on the border of Rajasthan, and that is the deity of Krishna holding up the hill, Gopal. So Nathadwar. So at Nathadwar, you have the temple of Gopal. Anyhow, the point is that from the spiritual world, the trees are fully conscious. They are spirit souls. They don't have a body. The tree itself is completely spiritual. The rock is completely spiritual. So, Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu, Kalpa Vriksha, Laksha Vriteshu, Surabir. There are hundreds of thousands and millions of Surabi cows. The Surabi cow is the mother of all cows, and the Surabi cow in the spiritual world can give unlimited milk. So, cow is very important if you want to practice spiritual life. The purpose of spiritual life is to minimize and to completely become free from material engagement and thus material attachment. Therefore, one who comes into the material world, which is a place of attachment, has to minimize his material needs so he can maximize his spiritual practice. And to do that, you have to live very simply. You cannot, it's not easy to practice God consciousness and at the same time build skyscrapers and rockets and motor cars and live in a materialistic society. That's not possible. Therefore, the cow is important, because if you have a few cows and a piece of land, your economic problems can be solved. The cow will give you milk. From milk, you can make so many milk products. And from the cow comes the bull. The bull can plow the land. You get grains, you get vegetables. And in this way, very easily, you can resolve your economic problems and spare the time to practice Krishna consciousness. Because whatever Krishna consciousness we practice during this life will bring us at the end of this life into the spiritual kingdom. Chintamani Dham. So, Lakshavriteshu Surabir Abhipalayantam. Millions and millions of Surabi cows. Lakshmi Saharsasata. And Krishna is worshipped by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune. Lakshmi Saharsasata means hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis. Sevyamanam. They are serving Krishna. Who? Govindam Adi Purusham. Tamaham Bhajami. The topmost person, the topmost demigod in this universe is on record that he worships Govinda. And it so happened that Lord Brahma, he is the chief, he is the source of our Guru Parampara. Knowledge comes down to us by parampara, by disciplic succession. Krishna says in the 4th chapter of the Gita, Evam parampara praptam imam rajasayo vidu. Sakalanena mahata yoga nashta parantapa. Krishna is saying to Arjuna, my dear Parantapa, my dear powerful friend, this knowledge is coming down in disciplic succession. But because of the influence of time, this succession was broken. Therefore, I am explaining this science of spiritual life to you. This is the whole idea behind the Bhagavad Gita. It was explained to Arjuna to teach us. Sa evaya maya tedyam yoga prokta puratana. Therefore, today, Arjuna, I am teaching you this Bhagavad Gita, which is yoga prokta puratana. It is eternal, and it is the relationship, the connection between you and the Supreme Lord. Why is he teaching Arjuna? Arjuna was not a yogi, he was not a jnani, he was not a sannyasi, he was a householder. He was a prince. But bhakto sime, because you're my devotee. Shaka cha iti, because you're my friend. Rahasyami etaduttamam. Therefore, you are able to understand this knowledge. Many people read Bhagavad Gita. Many people read scriptures. Many people go to temples, to mosques, to churches, but they do not understand their relationship with God. At most, God is an order supply. To understand God, you have to become his friend and you have to become his devotee. Then that is a proper basis to understand not only God, to understand anyone. You want to understand me? Do I want to understand you? Then we have to build a friendly, devoted relationship, giving and taking. These are the six. There are six ways to exchange: asking, inquiring, explaining, giving gifts, accepting gifts. And in this way, we build a relationship on a material platform. And in the same way, we can build a relationship on the spiritual platform by allowing our eternal connection with God, which is a connection based on friendship. First of all, it is based on acceptance. It is based on understanding the position of Krishna and developing a friendship with him. There is no other way. You cannot understand God by external endeavor. Krishna says, Na sadai, says to Uddhava, to one of his most intimate devotees, Na sadayati mam yogo, na shankyam dharma Uddhava. My dear Uddhava, you cannot control me. You cannot actually bind with me or have me as your intimate friend through the practice of yoga. Na shankyam, nor through the practice of material study, studying the material universe, as our scientists are doing. Nor by dharma. Dharma means by acting piously. That is not sufficient to understand God. You can be a pious man, you can be a perfect yogi, you can be in perfect material knowledge, you can understand the whole universal structure, but that doesn't mean you have a personal relationship with God. Naswadayastapatyago yatha bhaktir mamurjitaha. Neither by your own spiritual practices, neither by tapa, by austerity, neither by tyaga, by renunciation, inasmuch as you can bhaktir urjita, by developing loving devotional service to me. Therefore, we practice hearing and chanting. This is the process in Kali Yuga and in all yugas, but especially in Kali Yuga. That is the process by which we can understand Krishna, simply by hearing and chanting. That is a great benediction Krishna has given us, so that to take advantage, Prabhupada went to great trouble to give us so much knowledge. More than 1,000 lectures we can listen. Every day we can listen to his lectures. So many books, hundreds of books he's written, thousands of letters he's written. So there is no shortage of knowledge. It's simply a question of application. It's simply a question of following some simple rules which are actually beneficial for us, chanting and reading. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we have some comments. Jaya Shri Das and Toshan are there. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Mandi Priyor is also here. Good evening. Mishra Anuja, Hare Krishna. Atmavidya is there. Hare Krishna. Humble obeisances to everyone. Anna Maria Monchada, Hare Krishna. My obeisance to all the assembled devotees and to Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Shri and Toshan had a question. Is it also the Vrindavan Bharatvarsha is higher than Goloka Vrindavan? If so, how do we understand this? And then what happens to the spiritual places like the holy dhams when partial or full destruction takes place? Okay, these are very intricate questions. In certain ways, the activities that Krishna performs in Boma, in Gokula Vrindavan, the Vrindavan manifested within the material universes is called Gokula Vrindavan. And the Vrindavan which eternally exists in the spiritual world is called Goloka Vrindavan. As far as I know, some of the activities which Krishna performs in Gokula Vrindavan on this material platform are not performed in Goloka Vrindavan, like killing the demons, like some of his pastimes with his devotees. They are much more broader on this level. Therefore, under some aspects, devotees conclude that Gokula Vrindavan is even higher than Goloka Vrindavan. And it is never destroyed. Even when the universe is destroyed, this Gokula Vrindavan remains as it is within the body of Krishna, and it is again manifested when creation again takes place. Good. Thank you very much. And if you have any more questions or any comments, please be free to put them. I will check the messages later on. And thank you for participating, and see you on Friday. Haribol.